the MLB draft entering day 2, it's time to take a look back at day 1 and see who had the best selection in the first round. I'll be giving a grade and some feedback to every single pick made in the first round, so be sure to subscribe and comment if you enjoy this sort of video, and let's go ahead and get into it. Starting in reverse order, let's take a look at the Texas Rangers selection of Malcolm Moore, the catcher out of Stanford. At this spot, I really didn't understand the move, and that's why I gave it a D. He is a bat over glove type player, and there's a lot of question marks regarding whether Malcolm Moore can stick at the catcher's spot. And I think if you're going to go for a bat heavy type player, why not go for Tommy White, who went at the very first pick of the second round? He also puts up great numbers on the offensive side, probably has better batted ball data, and just also doesn't have a position. So it's a very similar type player in terms of that. But I think Tommy White's just a bit better on the offensive side, so I gave the Rangers a D at the number 30 spot. At number 39, I gave the Arizona Diamondbacks a B- for Slade Caldwell, the outfielder high schooler from Arizona. He has some plus perks. He is a Corbin Carroll type guy, plus speed, plus hit tool, is going to have relatively low power numbers due to his slender body and flat swing. So there's some good to take away, and you can understand why they fell in love with the guy from Arizona that plays a bit like Corbin Carroll, so I gave them a B-. At the number 28 spot, we have Walker Janik, the catcher out of Sam Houston. Going to the Houston Astros, I gave them a C- for the pick. I'm not a big fan of the catchers in this class, and having them kind of just slip in here at the back end of the first round felt kind of appropriate. This is a defensive first guy, and you can imagine he can probably get up to the MLB relatively quickly to be that secondary catcher for the Houston Astros, be that defensive option. But there is some life to the bat, but it's going to have to be some development at some point for him to be an everyday catcher at the MLB level. So for this, I gave them a C-. At number 27, the Philadelphia Phillies grabbed Dante Nori, the center fielder out of Michigan, out of high school. He is a little bit older for the high school ranks, almost 20 years old, entering into the draft in about 2 or so months. He is a plus defender and has great speed. He is pretty maxed out, physically, so that's a little concerning because there isn't much projection for him moving forward. He is going to have a contact first approach and just doesn't offer a lot, to grow from at this spot. And then number 26, the New York Yankees got the same grade from me, even though they went for the complete opposite approach, grabbing a college arm out of the University of Alabama, Ben Hess. He is a very boom or bust type guy. He got a crap ton of strikeouts in the SEC last season, but also gave up a lot of walks and basically had no command whatsoever, had a high ERA as a result of that. So this is very much a boom or bust type guy. And I applaud the Yankees for going for a bit of a boom or bust type prospect, but at the same time, this felt like a bit of a reach to me. And then at number 25, the San Diego Padres went with the most Padres pick ever. They got a big toolsy guy in Cash Mayfield out of Oklahoma, 19 years of age, a little bit older for that high school area, but is 6'4", 200 pounds. This guy is a physical beast for being out of high school. Currently with a plus fastball, plus changeup, also has a curveball to mix in there, and has good control. Just feels like a Padres guy, has high upside, going to take some development as he gets older. We'll see how that pans out, but I gave him a B, all things considered. And then at 24, the Atlanta Braves stopped the slide of a guy that should have went way higher in this class, and that is Cam Caminiti, a left-handed pitcher out of Arizona, also of the high school ranks, only 17 years old. He is a long, long time away from being in the majors, but he could be possibly the steal of the class. Already has a plus fastball, plus slider, and a plus changeup, and has a curveball to go alongside that. Has some pretty average control, but this guy should absolutely be a star pitcher way down the line. It's just going to take some time as he is so young. And then we have another pick that just felt like the right spot for the right guy, and that's the Los Angeles Dodgers, who went ahead and got another toolsy guy that they're going to look to build up, and that's Kellen Lindsey, the shortstop out of high school from Florida. He currently has a 55 hit grade, but that's not where he makes his money. He has a 75 run grade out of high school, has unbelievable speed, feels like a Dodgers guy with a lot of tools. Needs some time to develop that talent, but we all know the Dodgers can do that, and he gets the A- grade from me. And then you had the Baltimore Orioles, who had the luxury of having this elite prospect system. They're great at developing talent, so they went with a boomer bust guy and Vance Honeycutt of North Carolina. We know he's a boomer bust guy because he strikes out a lot, like a lot. But whenever he does make contact, he has unbelievable power, great run grade, great arm, great fielding as well. Has almost all the tools except for he swings and miss a lot. So you believe the Baltimore Orioles are probably going to be able to cut that out of him to some degrees. So it's the Orioles. I have to believe in them, but just because of the risk there, I'm going to give them a B plus. To the number 21 spot, we have Kalen Culpepper, the shortstop, probably third baseman out of Kansas State. People believe he should be a third baseman because he doesn't have the lateral quickness that he should have to be a shortstop, but he is a great defender otherwise, and people think he could be a Gold Glover at the spot. Now, the bat does have a relatively low upside. He has good hit tool, but it has a flat swing. He's not going to get much more power than what he's already showing. So you're getting a high floor, low ceiling type player here at number 21. And for that, I had to give them a C. At the number 20 spot, we had the Toronto Blue Jays grabbing Trey Savage from the East Carolina University Pirates. He is a great player and he shouldn't have fallen this far. He has a really high floor and should be a quick riser. And if you gave him just a tick more velocity out of that arm, he could be an excellent, excellent pitcher down the line. He has 4 offerings, a fastball, curveball, slider, splitter, plus on 3 of those pitches, and is overall just an above average overall prospect. Not the highest ceiling in the world, but definitely a good guy to get in this rotation, especially quickly. At the number 19 spot, we had the New York Mets grabbing Carson Bench. There is so much to like about this guy. He just does everything at pretty much a good to elite level. You have a good hit tool, good power, decent runner, good arm, good fielding over there in right field, can even move over to center field temporarily, maybe fill an injury or two, or maybe have a guy get an off day. There's just a lot to like here. He controls the zone well. He hits the ball hard. He is limited in his position. You don't want him as an everyday center fielder, but Carson Bench does a lot. And hey, he used to pitch in college too. So let's go ahead and give them a B plus here at the number 19 spot. At the number 18 spot, we have the Tampa Bay Rays adding Theo Gillen, a shortstop second base type out of high school in Texas. Now, they did announce him as an outfielder, which does create some question marks, but also some interesting things to be excited about. He has a plus bat, but he has a weak arm, so it's kind of scary having him out in the outfield. Center field seems like the area considering his ability to run. You get a plus bat, you have a guy that can play, seems like a good field, especially using his ability and using his legs. So hopefully they can make the most out of Theo Gillen and add him to an already pretty stacked list of prospects. And it's a really similar story here for the Milwaukee Brewers at number 17. You have to wonder if the Brewers kind of took the Rays pick because they virtually did the same thing. Braylon Payne, outfielder out of Texas, excellent runner, plays center field. He's going to be having a plus hit tool, probably not as much power, but is great in the field, already plays the outfield in high school, so he's more comfortable in that spot. They didn't need to underslot, in my opinion, but this just feels like a guy the Milwaukee Brewers would take. And, he has some of the most elite run times you can have in the class. A team that I did kind of feel like it made sense to underslot here was the Miami Marlins with their new general manager, Bendix. From the Tampa Bay Rays, it just all lines up. They went ahead and grabbed PJ Morlando, the outfielder from South Carolina. Now, he has cooled off a bit as a prospect, but that didn't stop them from taking him here in the first round and getting underslot value. I don't hate it. I really don't. I really think it makes a lot of sense. That prospect system is pretty weak, and they needed to grab some more just solid depth pieces to get this rebuild kind of started. And that's just what the system needed. They just needed a reboot. They needed a good group of guys to come in. Allows them to cast a wider net at just good talent. Maybe not the elite that you would expect here in the first round, but it makes a lot of sense, and the players should be relatively fine with a good hit tool. At the number 15 spot, we have the Seattle Mariners grabbing probably the most interesting player in the draft, Durangelo Sindite, who I just didn't understand the pick because he will most likely be just a right-handed pitcher. I know he got that rise to stardom based off his switch pitching, but he's been throwing more as a righty just because that is his strong side, and he just is a completely better pitcher in that spot. With that being said, if he is going to only be a right-handed pitcher, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. They could have got Brody Brecht. They could have got Trey Savage at this spot. They didn't go with either. They went with this guy, and I don't want to take too much away from him as a prospect, but he has only a 3-pitch mix. His changeup is a relatively lackluster offering. He doesn't have much control. There's just better options at the spot, and I think a lot of his stardom is his switch pitching, which he doesn't even seem like he's going to be doing moving forward. At number 14, the Chicago Cubs grabbed Cam Smith out of Florida State University. This is a pick that made a lot of sense, especially at the stop. I gave them a B minus for it. There is more to tap into power wise, and with a already plus glove, it felt like an appropriate landing spot. This guy is going to stick at third base, probably have more power if he can just lift the ball more. His ground ball rate at the moment is just not only unsustainable, but it's unacceptable at the next level. So there's more to tap in here. So that gives the Cubs really somebody to project moving up forward. At number 13, we had James Tibbs going to the San Francisco Giants. This is a pick that made sense for the player. He felt like he was just going to land somewhere in the spot. He is pretty much tapped out in terms of his potential. He has a great understanding of the zone. He has a good approach. Felt like the right landing spot, but he does have limited upside. Like I said, he is pretty tapped out. He has a good hit tool, good power, doesn't run the best, but is an okay fielder in the outfield. Should be a relatively quick riser in the Giants system. And then at 12, I thought the Boston Red Sox made the pick of the draft. Now, obviously, there's more talented players, but whenever you're talking about value for the selection, I thought the Red Sox hit a home run right here. Braden Montgomery fell most likely due to his injury. I don't really know all the details, obviously, but he joins an exciting group of that prospect system. He currently has a 50 hit grade, 60 power grade, is a good runner at 50, 70 arm, and 50 overall fielding. This guy has a lot of tools to work with, and if it wasn't for that ankle, I think he'd be going a lot higher in this draft. And I think the Boston Red Sox just absolutely crushed it here at number 12. And then in the year of college hitters, I thought the Detroit Tigers did the smart thing, grabbing Bryce Rainier, the shortstop from California, 19 years old, but he does a lot of things well. He is a little old for his, high school tag, but I thought they did well just getting the best player available if you ignore Braden Montgomery. Has a plus hit tool, 55 hit grade, 60 power grade, plus runner at 55, has a plus arm at 60, fielding grades 50, but he will most likely stick at the shortstop position. This should be a guy that they should look to build their future around. Might be a few years down the line, but this is another really exciting guy that they get in a year that's mostly loaded with college talent. They grab an excellent shortstop from high school from California. At number 10, the Washington Nationals grabbed Seaver King. I gave this pick a B minus because it felt like they reached a little bit for Seaver King. I didn't think he was necessarily supposed to go this high, not top 10 at the very least. I thought he was going to be later teens type of player, but he has a plus hit tool and he's going to play excellent defense. It does match up with where the rest of their young core is at. A lot of them are right on the verge of making it to the MLB. To get another guy that's going to be a quick riser, he is pretty much tapped out in terms of his potential, but be a quick riser, he's going to be up in the majors in no time. So to get him along with all these other guys that are coming up makes a lot of sense. And then at number 9 for the Pittsburgh Pirates, my favorite team, it made a lot of sense for them to grab Connor Griffin. We know we love their up the middle prospects for whatever reason. They have a plethora of second basemen. Connor Griffin's not going to be a second baseman. It's really an interesting debate on whether he will be a shortstop or outfielder. I think they should raise him up as an outfielder, but it remains to be seen. At this point, he probably was the best player available. He has the most upside of any player in this class, but you have to wonder if the Pirates should have taken Braden Montgomery as well in the spot, just because their time to win is pretty much right now or coming into it as this team is exiting this rebuild, hopefully. So you have to wonder if getting another guy that's a little bit more MLB ready would have been better. But in terms of going best player available, this was probably the selection with Connor Griffin. Ugh, the Angels. I don't hate Christian Moore by any means. That's not what this is supposed to be about. He had a great College World Series. He has a flair for the dramatic. He loves the big moment. And you have to just give him his props. He is a great player. But this is more about the strategy than the player. If the Angels force him into the major leagues by the end of the season, maybe beginning of next season, they've really just done the last several classes dirty. Like, I love Christian Moore. He's a great player, but he shouldn't be forced into the majors that quickly because there's just more room to grow. He has a plus hit tool, but he's going to stick at second base. I didn't really feel like they needed to get a guy that's this MLB ready quite yet. This team isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And Christian Moore, as great as he might be, a good second baseman's not going to really change the direction of the Angels that much, especially in their present tense. So why they didn't go for a more developmental piece that will take a few more years that they can develop into a possible superstar. I don't know. This felt a bit forced, so I'm going to give them a D plus, only because Christian Moore is a good player. At number 7, I gave the St. Louis Cardinals an A minus for grabbing JJ Weatherholt, who somehow made it this far down the draft. He feels like a Cardinal. He is pretty much above average at everything. He's a good hitter, has some decent pop, especially for the second base spot. That's where I think he'll end up. I know he played some shortstop at West Virginia, but he's most likely a second baseman. He's just above average at everything. He's a good runner. But the thing that kind of holds him back compared to these other top collegiate bats is he did have a few injuries, and coming into the year, he probably was the best player in the draft, but he had those injuries, held him back from playing a good bit. So he did fall here a little bit in the draft. And at number 7, the St. Louis Cardinals get an absolute steal. At number 6, I gave the Royals an A for grabbing Jack Caglione. Just an absolute great pick in this spot. How he fell to this point, I don't know. But Caglione is a Kansas City Royals at this point, and most importantly, they announced him as a two-way player, which is important because how you announce the player indicates how the franchise might look at that player. This guy might be tossing a few innings. They call him Jack Tawney for a reason, and there's things to really love about Jack Caglione. He has some of the best power in this class, and oh, by the way, he can go out and shove you a few innings. That's great. What is there not to like? Oh yeah, he chases the ball a lot, but we can get past that. We can work on that. Why he's here at 6 and not going earlier, I'm not sure. The players above him are deserving. They are great players, but at the same time, Caglione is a different beast. He should have been higher in the draft, and I applaud the Royals for stopping the slide right here at 6. At number 5, we have the Chicago White Sox passing on Caglione, grabbing Hagen Smith. We know their success developing left-handed pitchers. We know he has the comps to a Carlos Rodon, even some people like Chris Sale, which I don't see that comparison at all, but he is very successful already, and we know the White Sox, surprisingly, are good at developing left-handed pitchers, so we'll see how that is, especially with Hagen Smith being so good already. He is great, but I have to wonder, with JJ Weatherholt and Jack Caglione still there, how do you rationalize taking Hagen Smith in this spot? I love Hagen Smith, but I think you had to take the bats, in my opinion. At number 4, we have the Oakland Athletics grabbing Nick Kurtz, getting a B minus from me. This is a safer pick than Jack Caglione, but at the same time, he's not going to have the same ceiling. Jack Caglione has the chance to be an absolute superstar in the MLB. Nick Kurtz has the chance to be a good first baseman by all means. He controls the zone well, has good power, has the power to all fields, and he's going to be in the MLB relatively quickly. But I think you have to take Caglione, in my opinion. So for that, I'm going to give them a B minus, but it did give them a little bit extra money to play with down the board. At number 3, you had the Colorado Rockies probably just licking their lips with Charlie Condon falling this far. How he made it past the first 2 picks, who knows? But they're ecstatic. You have a guy that's going to put up silly numbers in Colorado and is going to be in the majors relatively quickly. Will that help this Rockies team? Probably not. They're not exactly close to competition, but this could be the first step in the right direction. This is a Colorado Rockies team that just needs something to go right for him, and Charlie Condon falling to them at number 3 just feels like a steal, which is an absolutely absurd sentence to say, considering it's the 3rd pick in the draft. The team that most notably passed on him will be the Cincinnati Reds, who grabbed Chase Burns, the starting pitcher out of Wake Forest. We know he's a great player. They're trying to replicate Paul Skeens. He won't quite make it to the major leagues that quickly, but this guy has some of the filthiest stuff you've ever seen. Fastball off the charts, slider is incredible, good changeup, great curveball. Overall, just a fantastic pitcher. This guy's going to be sick. He's going to join a really young core of great starting pitchers for the Cincinnati Reds really quickly. But I have to wonder about taking these type of pitchers whenever you play in a bandbox, similar to like Colorado, where it's like you have home runs just getting hit left and right. It's going to hurt these guys' stats. And at the same time, you had bats sitting there that could have continued to fill out this lineup at positions more of need than starting pitching at the immediate level. I know that's not exactly how teams think about it all the time, but even if you're going best player available, I think you take Condon. If you're going position based, I think you don't take another starting pitcher. That didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but I still gave him a B just because it's Chase Burns. He is incredible. I'm not taking anything away from the player. It's like one of those situations where you can't screw it up that badly. And then at number one, it was pretty much in stone. There were some talks about them going underslot, but Bazana made sense here at number one for the Cleveland Guardians. He's the first Aussie and the first second baseman to be drafted number one overall. He's a great player. There isn't much to say to take away from him. Is limited to second base, so that does take away a little bit for me. But plus hit tool, plus power, plus run grade. Not much to hate about Travis Bazana here at the number one slot, especially considering the Cleveland Guardians' history as second baseman plus hit tool enthusiast. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe, and let's go ahead and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.